Let's bring California back to the people. How you doing, Sacramento? And Modesto and Stockton and wherever you're from. So I have to apologize. I keep calling this COVID thing a scandemic, and I was wrong. The pandemic is actually real, and he's probably in that office right there. He's our problem. My name is Mike Grover Coltharp. I was named after Grover Cleveland, our president, back in 1790. One of the things that I know about him was that he was known as the veto governor. If a law came across his desk and it wasn't in the best interest of the people and it didn't follow the Constitution, he vetoed it. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I was a police officer for 19 years here in the Sacramento area. Thank you. I've got 5 children that I raised up in the Roseville area. I didn't plan on doing this. This is something that I found that it has to be done. I started with the recall back in June. My wife and I were helping out with the recall every night in the summer till the sun went down. And then I asked one of the recall organizers, one of the guys that I used to work with at the local recall, I said, well, what happens when we get him out of office? Who's going to take his place? They said, I don't know. Our job is to get rid of him. That's what we focus on. It's the people's job to replace him. So I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, okay, well, we're in for a big problem now because we don't know who's going to replace him. So after a while, I started thinking about running. And I had no desire to be in any political office. I served my time as a police officer. I did my public service. But then it got to a point where I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started not being able to sleep thinking about running for governor. And then in July, I decided that I'm going to replace Gavin Newsom at the recall election. The recall election is dependent on the vote, the signatures that we get. So if you haven't already signed or volunteered to help sign, please sign up to volunteer. We are doing very well, but we're not done. You're going to hear more about that later. But one of the things that I'm going to do is make sure that the Constitution gets brought back to the people. A little bit about me. I want to make sure that we provide help to the homeless. We have a homeless problem in this state. You know what that is? It's mental illness. As a police officer, one of the things I did, I took someone to the hospital because they had mental illness. They call 5150, right? You guys heard that before. We take them to the hospital because they need help. Well, originally the mental health hospital refused to take them, which is actually against the law, but we don't care about the laws right now, right? Now we have to take them to the emergency rooms. We bring them to the emergency room and they keep them overnight and then they let them go the next day. And then they're back on the street. You guys have seen that. And then they take the power away from the police because they can no longer kick them out of the city. They have to buy them a hotel room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we reopen our mental hospitals. Give them the help that they need so the police can go back to the streets and actually be police. Give them the help that they need, whether it's drug abuse, alcohol abuse, or just strictly mental illness. Give them an area, a forum that they can actually get that service that they need before they get back on the streets. So when they're on the streets, they can actually be productive citizens and get jobs. So we want to make sure we help that. We talk about the farmers a lot. The farmers need water. Did you know that out of all the water that comes from our sources, 50% of it goes to the fish and the ocean? Did you know that? The last 50%, 40% of that goes to the farmers. And that's good because they need it. 10% of that goes to us. And who's the one that gets charged with reducing our water? We do. And we have that law that says that we're going to have to start using only 50 gallons of water per person. Do you know that? That was from Jerry Brown. Okay? But here's the thing. We need to stop having politicians in office. I am not running a political campaign. I am running to be a public servant. My position as governor is your voice. My personal beliefs and my personal opinions are going to be gone because they're going to be yours. What you want when you vote, that is a constitutional law. Did you know that we, the people, voted for the death penalty 9 times in California? Did you know that?
I did 50.
They changed the wording every time and we still said yes. Do you know how much safer these streets would be for the cops and for us if the death penalty was actually used? There was a story I like here in Sacramento years ago, back when the streets were down in Old Town. I love Old Town, by the way. There was this guy that walked into a restaurant. You thought I was going to say walk into a bar, huh? It's not that kind of joke. This guy walked into one of these businesses and he stole the safe. This was back in like 1850, okay? Drags the safe down the street. That's actually happened in real life too. But dragged the safe down the street, brought it down to the river, got it into the boat. But what he didn't see was the business owner and a bunch of citizens chasing him. They got him out of the boat. They lost the safe. They got him out of the boat, brought him back to town. They held a tribunal, and he was hung at 2 o'clock in the morning that night. Real story. Here's the funny thing, though. They didn't have much crime in Sacramento for the next few months. If you bring back law and order, if you allow the police to actually do the jobs that they became police to be, you will not have Antifa and BLM terrorists destroying our cities. They are not here to help anything but to destroy. Why is it that the city businesses have to cover up their windows and shut their businesses down because of Antifa? They don't have to do that for us. We want them to open their businesses. I want to open businesses. I want to open schools. Get rid of these ridiculous masks. I asked the California Department of Public Health, where's the study, right? They talk about studies, right, Gavin? Studies. They talk about health studies. Where's the study that says that my 2-year-old doesn't have to wear a mask, but everybody else does? So I wrote them an email. Actually, I called them first. It took me 2.5 hours to get through to them. They finally got an email back to me. They said, sir, we do not have an answer to your question. So here's my question. Why are you telling us to wear masks? If you're following the science, where's the science? All right. Got to get business open. Got to get schools open. What about all the prisoners that are letting out of jail? Prison. Here's what they're doing, and you may not know this yet, but what they're doing right now is they're trying to get rid of the enhancements. Enhancements work this way. If a guy comes up to you, knocks you down, takes your money, it's called a robbery. Okay? Force or fear is robbery. But if they use a gun, that's an additional crime. That's called an enhancement. That's an additional felony. What the governor and some judges in Orange County are trying to do right now is take the prisoners and get rid of their enhancements that they're in prison for. So that when they get released, they don't have that dangerous status. See, when they go to prison, they get classified. High risk, medium risk, low risk. They got rid of all the low risk back in Prop 47. Remember that? The Safe Schools and Neighborhoods Act. Remember that? It didn't do that. Why are the schools and the communities more dangerous right now? How many school shootings have we had since the Safe Schools and Neighborhoods Act has been passed? In fact, more cops have been hurt and killed since then. Because they're letting them all out. They're declassifying the dangerous ones. So now the cops are coming up to these ones that just killed somebody, but nobody knows because it's all been taken off. And they've been released. Now, I don't know where this law came from, but now he's releasing them because of COVID. Where's that law? So these streets are more dangerous. And that's got to stop. We need to protect our law enforcement. We need to make sure that they can go to work and come home every night. I traveled over 4,000 miles in the last couple months up and down California meeting people. And every time I see one of those signs on the side of the road of an officer that was killed in that area or in that city, it pisses me off. I was blessed in that every night I came home I was able to see my family. Not everybody gets to do that. We have a memorial right there of the officers that couldn't do that. That is not okay. You kill a cop in California, you are going to die. It's actually already in the Constitution. It's already there. It's still there. It's being ignored by our own government. Did you guys know in July 18th, all of the California senators and assembly people, did you know they wrote a bill to end the state of emergency in California? Yeah, you didn't know that, did you? Why didn't you know that? Because they're not telling us what they're doing. Now, it died right away. But why didn't they tell us so we can go after our Democratic senators and representatives and tell them to pass that law? Because they're not in our best interest. And we've got another election coming up in a couple years for them. We need to make sure that you guys are educated. So what I'm going to do is this. You guys heard of whitehouse.gov? That's how you watch all of President Trump's direct feeds. You don't go through the media. I'm going to create a channel for California so that everything that I do and my staff does, you're going to know about it. You're going to know about all the laws that are pending right now in that house that they're not telling you about unless you search for them, so that you can actually make educated decisions on your voting. Yes. Right after we get rid of all the voting systems that are in there that are fraudulent. Your vote is going to count. We have to make sure that that happens. What's the best way of fixing this state? Bringing income into this state, revenue. I want to bring industry back to this state. The timber industry. The power industry. We want... So, the governor wants us to start using electric cars in the next couple years, right? He can't even keep the lights on in California. We have nuclear plants in California. Did you know that we're paying to maintain them still? We're paying tax dollars money to maintain nuclear electric plants that are not giving us electricity. That is going to change. Did you know that the timber industry up north, 50 years ago, back when they used to be allowed to operate, they used the residual, the scraps, to power 2 power plants. Did you know we had power plants that ran on scraps from the timber? They closed one of them down, and they want to close the second one down. We got to bring the timber industry back. Bring industry, reduce all of the regulations so businesses can come back. It is not the government's responsibility to produce jobs. It is the government's responsibility to get the hell out of the way so businesses can bring jobs back to California! I am tired of politicians worried about their career in politics. I don't want to be here. I've got kids. I don't see my kids because I'm traveling. I barely see my wife and I sleep with her. I am here because I have to be here. Somebody has to protect the Constitution. Somebody has to bring the Constitution back to California and give the power of the people back to the people. That's why I'm doing this. A lot of people ask whether I believe in Jesus Christ. I do. The First Amendment gives me that right. The California Constitution specifically says that the government cannot tell you or me where to go to church, or when, or how. There are no exemptions. There are no exclusions. There is no COVID exemption for the Constitution. This needs to change. The Second Amendment. We need armed citizens. It is not the armed citizens, the good people, that are hurting the cops. It is not the good citizens that are shooting the kids in the schools. The good citizens that have guns, you don't know who they are. An armed society is a safe society. If a bad guy's walking behind you and he's thinking about trying to rob you, he has to make 2 decisions. One, is this going to be the last day on this earth for me? Or is this guy not armed? It's going to be a tough decision. You're going to keep people safer. So, I want to make sure that you guys understand what your rights are. Part of that is making sure that you're educated on what's going on in the Capitol. So I will be your voice. And I will make sure that you know what all of our senators and representatives and assemblymen are doing, all of our public officials. Now, as governor, what I can do is I have complete control over that Capitol and everything inside it except the legislators. So I'm going to hold the California Department of Public Health responsible for the rights that they've been taken away from everybody unconstitutionally. You know, in San Francisco, did you know that only less than 200 people in San Francisco died last year from COVID? Now, we don't know if that's of COVID or by COVID, right? They're not telling us that stuff. Did you know that over 600 people died of drug overdose in San Francisco, but they're still giving out free needles? It's not about our health. I could talk to you all day. Grover for governor, look me up, Facebook, website's GroverForGovernor.com. I have business cards over here. Do your research. Let's bring California back to the people.